Hello and welcome to In the Spotlight with Quocirca, the definitive podcast on digital disruption in the print industry. I'm Luella Fernandez, Director of Quocirca, and today I'm joined by Chris Stramiello, SVP of Channels and Partnerships at Kofax. Today we'll be discussing intelligent automation in the workplace and also discussing the recent acquisition of Printix. So welcome, Chris. Great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me on, Luella.
So you have a long history in the print industry, Chris. I know you were involved in several acquisitions during your time at Nuance and led the sale of Nuance Document Imaging to Kofax. Could you tell us a bit about your career journey and your role at Kofax today?
Yeah, sure. There's certainly been a lot of M&A involved, as you say. I started out, I've been in this industry over 25 years now, I guess, from Xerox to Nuance, to now Kofax in a host of different roles, in product management, in marketing, and ultimately now in global sales. Today, I am the SVP of global channel sales for Kofax. And, we sell about 60% of our products through channels on an annual basis, a little over 60%. We've got both direct and channel businesses. But there's obviously, as you know, a large portfolio of products. So we've got intelligent automation products, as you referenced. We've got MFP products. So we've got a pretty broad spectrum. And as you know, we got to that big portfolio through a lot of M&A. And so, I was involved with acquiring X Solutions and eCopy and Safecom and Equitrack and NSI, and ultimately helping to lead the carve out of Nuance Imaging into Kofax today, where that acquisition journey has continued with SciGen and Printix. So it certainly has been a long path in imaging, but of course, that's always changing. And what we're doing in this realm today looks a whole lot different than it's ever looked in the past, both for us and I think for most of the partners we deal with.
Yes, so you've certainly been involved in a lot of M&A, and I think that also reflects the breadth and depth of the Kofax Solutions portfolio today. So we are talking about intelligent automation today and how it can transform manual and paper-based business processes. I guess over the past year, we've seen organizations really fast track their digital transformation and digitization. And information capture is certainly one part of that digital transformation journey. But digital transformation is a broad term. So how does Kofax define digital transformation in the context of its strategy around print and capture?
Yeah, sure. It's a good question. Particularly like how do we define digital transformation? I would probably want to start there because it gets applied to just about anything in the industry. We could call simple scanning digital transformation or right up to sort of complete, organization reengineering. So, the way we talk about it, we talk about digital workflow transformation from intelligent automation. And, that means that we're using document intelligence and process orchestration and connected systems to transform our customers' manual and kind of labor-heavy processes into accurate and automated processes. And this could be something really specific like invoice processing, or it could be more broad-ranging, like automating customer systems and communication flows. And I think the common denominator is that eliminating manual input, routing and rework, and creating faster, more secure, more compliant processes is really what binds all of this together. And, we're going to focus a lot on MFP and print and capture software. Some of that might sound far afield from the print and capture world we live in, but it really isn't. The capture and routing capabilities from a product like Control Suite that we offer that kind of leads in the print and capture space in the MFP world, that's really the starting point for so many of these tasks. And it's a continuation point in a lot of processes. When you think about a lot of data that's sitting around in paper, legacy content that needs to be incorporated into newly formed processes. So it's really critical there. And then you think about print, print is the output of so many of those workflows and processes as well. So at Kofax, we look at this all coming together, and we find ourselves, when we think about digital transformation, in a unique position in this industry, and that we have it right from the start, from the device, from the capture point, through the entirety of the process with intelligent automation and digital workflow transformation. So I think, that's number one, which is, what is this all about, and how are we defining it? But I think the other piece is the what. What are customers really looking to do? What's driving this? And I think it's this. It's that, we exchange information with customers, suppliers, coworkers all day, every day, across multiple channels and varied formats. Paper, faxes, emails that pile quickly. And to get to that efficiency, customers, suppliers, those workflows, they need to be automated. They need to be digitized now more than ever. So again, if we're talking about onboarding, if we're talking about claims processing, any of these things, the MFP can be a part of that. And I think for most of our industry, we think just about that front end, or just about that endpoint, rather than the whole process.
Yes, I think you're right. It's really about that whole end-to-end process. And we definitely see Kofax as well positioned at that intersection of print and digital workflows, particularly given its offerings across both print and capture. You mentioned Control Suite there, which I think is a great example of how print management can really enhance MFPs with intelligent automation capabilities, particularly around secure capture, print and mobile workflows. Can you talk a bit more about the Control Suite platform and how it has evolved?
Sure. Control Suite is actually the leading solution. We might call it a print management solution, but Control Suite was the innovator of bringing print management and capture and workflow together in a single suite solution. And we saw that, years ago as the two leading applications in this MFP ecosystem, and acquired the leading technologies, worked very hard to integrate them. And so what you have with Control Suite is a content-aware, highly secure print and capture solution that's designed for a variety of MFP devices, and makes that end-to-end starting point and finish point easier than ever before. It's been very successful for us. It is deployable on-premise, in a private cloud, across almost every leading print manufacturer, and it's been a home run for us, but more importantly, for our customers. And that scales anywhere from SMB up to the largest government and corporate enterprises.
So the shift to remote working has created challenges for some organizations in really making sure that worker productivity is not impacted. But at the same time, those organizations that have already digitized their operations prior to the pandemic, they were probably better positioned and more prepared to make that shift to remote working. So what challenges do you see as organizations facing in automating business processes to support the hybrid workforce? And how is Kofax helping customers make that transition?
Sure. I mean, you say, have we seen that as a challenge? I think the whole industry sees that as a challenge. We see it as an incredible opportunity here at Kofax, because, when we think about digital automation and remote workers and hybrid offices, these are the type of challenges that our software stack is built to accommodate. It's part of what's driven our M&A strategy, but it's also part of what the whole suite delivers. So, now that most of us are working at home, at least part of the time, we've got to be able to extend those processes to the home, whether that's printing, whether that's capturing information, whether that's routing and extending a workflow, whether, again, it could be invoice processing, it could be insurance claims, it could be my healthcare information. We've got to extend that to the home, and that's exactly what things like RPA, things like process orchestration, things like mobile capture, things like digital signature, the types of technologies that Kofax is able to extend to the print and MFP world. It's exactly what we do. So we've seen it as a huge growth opportunity. Not without challenges, obviously, but a huge driver of growth. And that's something we'd like to be able to bring to this industry and to help our channel be able to access these high growth segments. I mean, you obviously know from your own research that the growth in hardware devices is not really there. The growth in printed pages is not really there. But the people we do business with, our partners, have some unique capability to start servicing these market needs in these high growth areas. And we think Kofax can help marry the customer and the partner with these opportunities.
Yes, as you say, the industry is certainly at that tipping point where it needs to adapt to deliver more business value to customers beyond the hardware device. And some channel partners have already made this shift to focus on software-led sales, but I guess there's still a huge opportunity for traditional partners to make this transition.
I think it's existential, Luella. There is no growth in hardware, and there's nothing about the pandemic that is going to liberate growth in printing or in hardware itself. These are big companies full of smart people that have an amazing customer base. They've got to find ways to deliver what their customers are really looking for. And the device is part of it, but it's not going to be the growth end of it.
So in terms of vertical markets, are there any particular sectors where you are seeing stronger adoption of intelligent automation, particularly as a result of the pandemic?
We have obviously quite a horizontal business. When you think about printing, you think about workflows, but we have started to see some stratification. I guess a couple of things I would say is during this pandemic period, I think government and healthcare have really had a lot of business, a lot of growth. They're very paper-centric and document-centric industries. So we and durable industries. So we've seen tremendous growth there. Government because I think it's so durable, and healthcare because there was so much disruption in healthcare. So finding ways to handle the pandemic and patients and remote healthcare and telehealth care and transfer of patients through systems and onboarding of so many new patients, all those challenges have driven real growth there. So I think those are the two segments that have certainly been very strong. But I think historically, financial services is big for us, insurance. So I think those are the leaders there as we think about it.
Yes, and I guess some of those sectors you just mentioned are very paper-centric and most likely using disparate and fragmented systems across so many business processes. And that, of course, leads to security and compliance challenges. So is reducing risk and improving compliance a key factor in driving adoption?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things we're talking a bit about the pandemic moment here and changes, but I think that's one of the things that's really shined through is that there have been some areas of organizational friction that have emerged as you start to move some systems and some people remote, some people on premise, have a host of those disparate systems. How you really weave that together better, how you do the process orchestration, I think becomes a bigger and bigger challenge, number one. And then to your other point, security remains a huge issue. The more information you have moving on-site and off-site, inside the firewall, outside the firewall, I think you have bigger challenges there. And so, when we think about healthcare, and you've got so much confidential patient information, or I just mentioned government, where you've got, people's social security numbers and other confidential information, security becomes so critical. And that starts at the basic level. That's a print management and capture challenge as well. We just did a huge deal with a large NHS in your area. And it was really about security of patient information through the digitization process and the risks of keying in information and sending information manually. So it completely security driven. And the same thing, we just did a huge control suite deal here in the States with the Defense Logistics Agency and Department of Defense, where security is paramount. And again, it's that capture security and output security that becomes so important. So I think that has moved up the stack, even security, as we think about so many fragmented locations and systems.
Yes, and I guess it's not about automating every business process, but identifying which manual processes are the best candidates for automation. And you talked earlier about how Kofax offers an end-to-end platform for digital workflow transformation. Is there an advantage to using a single platform to connect the disparate systems that many organizations are operating?
Well, I think that there is. Let me answer in two ways. One, I think that there is because particularly for channel partners and customers, it allows them to grow with somebody. So you just said correctly, you don't automate everything all at once. This is a journey. And so being able to deal with a partner who understands the full end-to-end automation journey and can help you get there. Whether you're a channel partner who's just starting out and trying to access some of this market growth, or whether you're a customer who maybe wants to start with AP automation and then move to, broader intelligent automation and bring in more across different systems. I think it makes it a lot easier to have one expert partner that can do it all for you and do it in a longevity, do it in an ongoing manner. So I think that's one. But I think it's also important to know you've got to be able to orchestrate different systems too, right? So although we have a platform that can work for just about anything you need to automate in your organization, it's part of the reason we can do that is because we can integrate with so many other connected systems. And so I think that's important as well.
Yes, and you just mentioned the channel opportunity there. Clearly the hardware market is commoditized. So how is Kofax helping its channel partners make this transition from hardware-centric to, I guess, value software-centric led sales? And, we see still many channel partners reluctant to fully embrace a software-driven business model because they're in the comfort zone of a hardware-driven business. So, how is Kofax helping its channel partners there?
Sure. I think there's still a broad swath that's reluctant or at least are in the early stages of making that migration. And you said it, look, the devices, it became more difficult over time to differentiate based on kind of features and functions of devices. We went through the early days where scan to email was a killer app or secure print management was a killer app, but those have become standard features as well. And so if this industry, if these channel partners, if these manufacturers, if companies like Kofax are going to continue to push forward, it's going to have to be serving customers where they are and with what they need. And we think we do that in two ways. One, we think we do that with our technology stack, as we've been discussing with intelligent automation. And that's where the growth is. But the second way we really do that is through training and enablement and helping the channel with our expertise move along that journey wherever they are. We're a technology company, but we're also an enablement and a selling company and help our partners with that. We think that's critical value. And we think we're the only one in this ecosystem that has the end-to-end expertise to help move the industry along in that way.
Yes, and it really is the software companies like Kofax that can drive innovation in the industry. And given the end-to-end approach across print and capture, it can really help customers at every point of their digitization journey, I guess. One big part of this digitization journey is the acceleration of adoption in cloud over the past year, which has really been the foundation for digital collaboration in the remote and hybrid workplace. And one area we're seeing a big shift here is in cloud printing, as organizations are really looking to benefit from the cost efficiencies and improve productivity by moving their on-premise print infrastructure management to the cloud. However, again, we're seeing the channel a bit slower to take on cloud as part of their portfolio. So can you talk a bit about the acquisition of Printix and Kofax's strategy with cloud and cloud printing going forwards?
Sure. Well, I think you mentioned kind of the two keys to this acquisition, one being sort of customer readiness and two being channel readiness. What we've found is that there's a huge demand among customers for cloud print management, and a demand at the customer level that really has outstripped the availability through the channel, or maybe the emphasis through the channel. So we saw that as a great opportunity. Having so many strong channel relationships and so many great partnerships, we felt like we were uniquely positioned to bring something customers wanted more broadly than it's ever been made available before. But we also look at it and we see a real change. This is not primarily about secure print management and secure output and some of the things that we've known print management to be. This is more of an infrastructure play. This is more about eliminating print servers, having a cleaner and more secure process, easier to stand up, easier to scale. It's as much about that as it is about print security. So we felt the fastest route to market for us was M&A. We're always in a build buy decision mode. In this case, we felt the buy decision was the fastest path given the changing nature of the market, and we felt Printix was the best technology in the market, bar none. And so that was a very easy decision for us. And you know what maybe accelerated that decision, Luella, was the fact that now we're seeing this not just as an SMB play, where there's been a lot of success in cloud print management, but we're starting to see enterprise RFPs that are taking on cloud print management. And once that occurs, then you start to get explosive growth. And that's what we're seeing here.
Yes, absolutely. Quo Circus's cloud is a great opportunity for the channel, not only to deliver cloud-based print services, but also to deliver other cloud-enabled workflow solutions. So Printix is certainly a great addition to the Kofax portfolio.
We're pretty excited about it, and it's been very warmly received both by Printix customers, by longtime Kofax customers, and also our partners. And you asked about Kofax strategy earlier, which is really to have leading solutions end to end here. But a big part of our strategy is also to start bringing more cloud capabilities to this market, and you're going to see that not just in offerings like Printix, but also up and down the intelligent automation stack. And I think that will pave the way, one, for these solutions to connect to each other more seamlessly, to be able to stand up easier and together. And then I think it will help us with the channel start to deliver cloud offerings that they haven't seen or they haven't been able to access as easily before.
So you touched upon cloud there. What other trends do you think will have an impact on print and capture over the next year?
Well, I think we're going to see an acceleration of the trends that are occurring today. So the hybrid office is the new office, and you and I, read the same research. You create the research, obviously, but we see that that's going to hold, and so that's going to mean that there needs to be more remote tools. That's going to mean that automation technology is going to be more mobile. That's going to mean that there needs to be more cloud availability. And I think we'll get behind each of those trends. We talked a little bit about industries and we talked a little bit about workflows. I think those are going to continue to accelerate. So we're putting a lot of energy where we're seeing growth today because we think that's going to be the pattern of growth tomorrow as well.
Yes, and the hybrid workplace has also implications for data security. So could you talk a bit about Kofax's capabilities around content security? So controlling what type of content is being printed or captured. So this is very different to traditional secure printing. So yeah, curious to hear about your content security capabilities.
Yeah, it's a great question. We're talking a lot about Printix, but of course the leading solution in the marketplace is our Control Suite offering, which is that combination of print and capture in the beginning of those workflows. And one of the real drivers of Control Suite's leadership and presence and growth has been exactly what you mentioned, which is content security. We tend to think of security as swiping a badge, or we think of security as secure print release, or maybe even encryption of data as it's scanned and routed. But most print management solutions in the market only understand the header. They understand who's doing something, and maybe they have a rule around who can do something. But understanding the content of the document and making decisions about it, that's really the next level of security when we think about print security. And so, we talk about healthcare, PII, or we talk about social security numbers, or we talk about any variety of confidential information. Can you understand the content of the document and make decisions based on that content? That's the next level security that we bring to market with Control Suite. And I think that type of security, that type of analytics and content-based security is really where the industry is going and what customers are asking for. So I think that's a big one that we will see, continue to grow. Particularly, you think about the kind of the great resignation that's going on, and so many people transitioning from one job to another, and so much information leaving organizations and moving around out there, and being able to secure that in advance, to be able to redact that before that content is made available, I think becomes really important.
Yes, absolutely. I think perhaps the full impact of the Great Resignation and potential employee exodus is not fully known yet, but certainly organisations need to prepare now by protecting and controlling company information, particularly as more of it is being accessed remotely. Yeah, and I wanted to end by asking if you have any other technology predictions for the broader intelligent automation market for 2022?
I guess I would have two maybe. One would be that the sort of bubble is burst in this idea that automation leads to job elimination. I think when people hear AI, when they hear automation, when they hear robotic process automation, any of these terms, they think about job elimination, efficiency, and robots replacing them. And I think one of the things going to become clear in 2022 is that this type of automation is actually eliminating kind of low-level manual repetitive work, freeing up workers to focus on higher value tasks, driving innovation, and actually driving more jobs and more hiring. And I think that the entire narrative about automation as a risk is going to be replaced by the facts of automation as an opportunity. So I think that's kind of one prediction I have for the coming year, and I think there's going to be clarity there. And then maybe the other is with respect to the channel. And you asked earlier about whether the channel was ready to embrace some of the type of software solutions we're talking about today. I think you're going to see 2022 as the most important year for this channel, our channel, to start moving towards the basic end, and in some cases, the more advanced end of these workflows, and start shifting a mindset that the value is not at the device, but in the processes that the device can help drive within an organization. And I think with that shift and the adoption of some of these higher level software solutions, I think you're going to start to see channel growth resurgent. And I think you're going to start to see the devices themselves, the hubs, positioned as higher value extensions of organizational capabilities. Whether that means a desktop one at home or a bigger A3 device in the hallway of your office, I think 2022 is that year for pivot there as well.
Yeah, two really great predictions there, actually. And I think they're both about mindset, in the sense that it's about changing the perception of AI, that it's not about job elimination, but about freeing up workers to focus on higher value tasks. And then your second prediction around the need for the channel to change their mindset and move towards higher value software-led business models. So thanks for those predictions, really great. So thanks again, Chris, for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. It's been really interesting to learn about how Kofax is positioning itself to deliver end-to-end intelligent automation, and also how it's working with its channel partners to extend the value of the MFP beyond simple device management. And I do really think that the channel partners have a real opportunity now to support customers in that digital transformation journey, as that will be accelerated further over the coming year. So thanks again for your time today, Chris.
Sure, my pleasure. Great to be with you, Luella.
Thank you for joining today's episode of In the Spotlight with Quocirca. For more information, please go to quocirca.com or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining, and I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.